Bonjour tout le monde, welcome back to We in France. I'm Diane and I am back with part 2 here for a popular video. Another 8 things you could do in the US but not in France. And for the first installment, part 1, watch this video, and for the reverse, things you could do in France but not the US, you can watch this one. But let's get right into it, no dilly-dallying. I want to get into 8 things you could do in the US but not in France. All right, so number 1, visit the desert. Now, the US has beautiful landscapes, so many national parks, and one that doesn't exist in France, one landscape, is the desert. So you could head out west to see the Great Basin Desert, the Sonoran Desert, the Chihuahuan Desert, and the Mojave. The closest thing to a desert in France would be this huge sand dune. It's called the Great Dune of Paila, I believe it's pronounced, located just outside of Bordeaux, about an hour outside of Bordeaux, in the Arcachon Bay area. So it's the tallest sand dune in Europe. It has a volume of about 60 million meters cubed. The dune measuring, I believe, about 500 meters wide from east to west and 2.7 kilometers in length from north to south. All right, number 2, you can buy a house in the US with central air conditioning. Now, in many areas of the US, especially warmer climates, homes are built with central air, and it's normal to visit friends and businesses with air conditioning and not sweat through your clothes on a hot day when you're indoors. Now, in France, air conditioning is not as widespread, and truth be told, most private homes don't have AC of any kind. Although I will say portable stand-up units are available, and Tom and I actually got one a few years ago. Just take note, they're not the window units because windows here are a bit different, but stand-up units, they do exist and people do get them. But there is no central air, at least not to the extent that it is in the US, even in more mild climates. All right, number 3, do your banking without getting out of the car at the bank's drive-through window or even your mobile app. And I can't say I've ever seen a drive-through window at any bank in France. If it exists, it's definitely not the norm. And if you want to make a deposit, a withdrawal, that sort of thing in France, you need to go inside or at least head to the ATM. Now, in the US, many banks have drive-through hours where you can do everything via a tube and a microphone that, it connects you to the employee inside the bank. And while there may be a drive-through bank in France, although I've never seen it and it's not the norm, they're not common by any means. So I'll just leave that out there in case there is one. But yeah, drive-through banking hours, they're super convenient for those of us who might have sleeping kids in the back seat. If you're in a warm climate like Florida, you have pets in the car, you just have a quick transaction that doesn't necessitate you getting out of the car. And just along with that, some of my American family members, they're surprised to know that I cannot deposit checks via my phone in France. And for anyone unaware, there are several US banks, like my bank, Capital One, that has a really convenient mobile app that lets you deposit paper checks through their app, making it completely unnecessary to actually go into a bank. So all you do is you open up your phone, you open up the app, you take a photo of the check, front and back, endorse it obviously, enter the amount and a few details, and boom, it's available and ready to use in your account, all digitally. You don't have to send that check in. You could just put it in the trash once it clears, or in the shredder. And it's easy as can be. My French bank, Crédit Agricole, the app, it'll text me maybe a day or 2 after I make a purchase. So not great for fraud protection, but we'll talk more about that. But yeah, banking is different, and I did a whole video on that here. Number 4, in the US, in some states, yes, you can get a full driver's license at the age of 16. And those states, I believe, are South Dakota, North Dakota, and Montana. And then there's a much bigger handful of states that full license is 16 and a half years old, and a whole other bunch at 17. When I got my license in New Jersey, I was 17. And that means that in many states, 14 and 15-year-olds have their learning permits. Now, that stands in sharp contrast to France because the nationwide age here to get a license is 18. 16's for motorcycles only, and that's not dependent on the region. It's 18 nationwide. And for more on driving in France, I have a video on that topic linked here. All right, sticking with driving for a second, we have number 5. You can get a driver's license in the US relatively cheaply. Everything's relative, but the written exam and road test in France, they are not only pretty tricky to pass, but they're expensive. Because in order to pass, you need to take driving lessons in most cases. They're not cheap. You can expect to pay upwards of 1,000 euros when all is said and done, and more if you're in a big city where things are more expensive, if you're a brand new driver or need some extra practice. And yes, that can mean it can cost more like 2,000 euros, over 2,000 US dollars. And yes, that includes people who move to France who already have a license in their home country. If they need to get a French license, they will be paying for lessons. Now, on top of that, it can take a while, sometimes up to 2 years, to get your full French license. And that's because there are a limited number of driving tests per year, and driving schools get dibs on these tests. So the whole process can be competitive, can take a while, but it's not that bad because I hear it's even worse in Germany, our neighbor to the east, where it's even more expensive and difficult. So if there are any Germans watching, you've gotten a license in Germany, you'll have to confirm or deny that below. I just want to say a quick word about my glasses. If you've been watching for a while here on We in France, you know I love glasses. They're all prescription. I don't wear contacts anymore, and I love to switch it up. And this pair I'm wearing, they're from the company Zinf. Zinff. They're an online glasses store that makes affordable glasses like these in a wide range of styles and lens types. And they sent me this pair to test out. And you can choose from all different styles, including sunglasses. And I'd like to offer you a discount code. It's my name, Diane30. Diane30. It's also linked below. You'll get 10% off the lenses, 50% off the frames. So yeah, I'm going to leave that link for you down below in the description with the coupon code Diane30. And now let's move into number 6, which is experiencing credit card fraud after using your card to pay at an American restaurant or anywhere. And this actually happened to my dad a couple of weeks ago. He's 99% sure his card was compromised at a restaurant. And why that might be the case, well, let me just explain a quick difference in how you pay when dining out, US versus France. Now in the US, when you pay for your meal at a restaurant, the waiter usually walks away with your credit card. You put it in the little billfold in the envelope. They scan it at the register, away from the table, and then they'll walk it back for you with the receipt for you to sign, leave a tip, and all of that. Now in France and many areas in Europe, the waiter will bring a handheld payment terminal to the table, and you pay right there with the card. It never leaves your sight. So they just extend it out to you. You put your card in, you type in your code, whatever, and then they leave. Your card never leaves your sight. Now, in the US, scammers and people up to no good, they can easily steal your credit card number when the card's out of your sight. So at restaurants, I'm not saying this happens all the time. It's not even, I wouldn't even say frequent, but it can happen. And then these scammers go and resell things on the black market. And something in France unrelated to restaurants, I actually did get scammed. So if you want me to talk about some scams to watch out for, let me know below and I'll make a video on that. And yeah, personally speaking, on my US credit card, not debit, but credit card, every 5 or so years, I get a fraud notice from my card issuer just saying, there are fraudulent charges. We need to replace your card. They wipe the charges, of course. I'm not on the hook for them. But this rarely happens in France because society here uses chipped debit cards with a PIN and not regular credit cards without a PIN that we use in the US. And I discussed this whole credit versus debit card thing in another video, so I'm not going to go into detail again here. But credit card fraud is relatively common in the US. Like, you probably know someone who's had their card compromised. In France, it's much less common, and an easy fix for US cards is for credit cards and all debit cards require a PIN every single time and have it be authorized via an app. That's one good thing about my French banking app. I have to Face ID it every time I use it online. And if someone has my card without my knowledge, they're obviously not going to be able to validate it from my phone unless they, of course, have stolen my phone too and have copied my face. So yeah, long story short, debit card fraud is not as common in France, and that's most certainly a good thing. Okay, number 7, get an authentic Mexican meal pretty easily. It's commonplace in the US to chow down on some tacos, fajitas, enchiladas, you name it. Mexican food is delicious. It was my mom's favorite, and it's easy to find in the US, even in smaller towns. And in France, it's not at all. And that makes sense, right? Because if you look at a map, Mexico's nowhere near France, and the Mexican influence doesn't touch France in the same way it does in the US. So while you can find Mexican restaurants in big cities in France, what you'll find more commonly is kind of lackluster Tex-Mex cuisine, not authentic, and these funny things called French tacos. Yes, they call them un taco en français, and they don't resemble what we think of as authentic Mexican tacos at all. I'll put up a pic of a kit you can get, an Old Paso kit in the supermarket for these French tacos. And there's even a fast food chain called O Tacos here in France that specializes in these tortillas that wrap kind of either chicken or some other meat and French fries. I'm not even joking. The fries kind of wedged in there. They're mushy. They're not great. And personally, I tell you to steer clear of these French tacos. They're not good. Okay, number 8, get cash back at a store when you pay using your debit card with no additional fees. So it's pretty normal to get cash back at a place like Target or CVS, even Publix, when you're at the register paying for your purchase with your card. You know, you'll see a message on the screen asking you, would you like cash back? Yes or no, and then the amount. So basically the way it works is if your purchase is $10, you tap $20 cash back, your card would be debited the full 30, 20 plus 10, right? So you get 20 in cash in your hand. And it's a convenient way to get some quick cash instead of seeking out an ATM for that purpose specifically. So kill 2 birds in 1 stone when you're at CVS. And I have to say, I have never seen this once in France. I would even go as far to say that maybe cash back doesn't exist here, but maybe it does. Let me know if you've seen it as an option at the pharmacy or the supermarket, although I don't think it's commonplace at all. One thing I want to point out is that one country or one way of life isn't inherently better than the other. I just like pointing out the differences I've observed after living in both places. It's fun, it makes you more aware of what to expect when traveling, and there are tons of positives and negatives to life both in France and the US. So with that, I want to invite you to check out my links below, sign up for my newsletter, get my free PDF of do's and don'ts to keep in mind when visiting France. And also, one thing I just want to clarify, I've seen some comments over the past couple of months to the effect of, oh, Diane, glad to see you're back. Great to see you making videos again. Or something like that, making me think YouTube might not be showing you guys all my videos, because I've been publishing new videos every week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, all year long. I publish on a regular schedule and I do work in advance. So please make sure your notifications are on so you don't miss anything. I want to make sure you're seeing the content I make for you. And I'll always let you know if I'm taking a longer break in the community tab, like a 2 or 3 week vacation. But yeah, if you haven't already, I'd love it for you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you want to see more on everyday French life and beyond. And with that, I'll leave it there. See you back here on We in France soon. Salut!